rolls down, since the puppeteers couldn't move, we had a different chair that these were connected to, and it's just a rubber thing, and it would hold against, and she'd fight against it, and she made it look like they were alive, and they really weren't.
Originally, we planned on keeping the mouth shut on this figure because we had two figures. We were going to, it's actually the one thing in the whole film I was a little disappointed with, because we didn't carry it quite as far as we'd wanted to. We designed this first figure just to take the real librarian, the actress, from herself to the next figure, the third figure, which was really, really monstrous. I actually have a face of it over here. I mean, this other one was a whole new sculpture. I mean, you can't see much from this, but it really, really was a horrible beast. You could get, beginning with a sculpture like this, you could make it such a change that you never could do with something like this, because we had to start off with this one looking like the woman. So this was just a segue from the woman to this. And this last one could open its mouth really wide and do all kinds of stuff. It was just loosely puppeted from behind. That's why this one's so stiff and locked off, because it was meant to be just a quick dissolve. Okay, the head bends down to give it kind of a vulture look. At the same time, the jaw extends, pulling the top of the forehead down to give it a real stupid bestial look. The jaw moves, naturally, and there were a couple of pulls on the nose that pulled the nostrils back and flared them so it looked like a beast nose. And the eyes sink in to look real hollow and scary. And that's about that.
Well, when they called me to work on this and work with Richard, I met with Richard and John Bruno and Michael Gross and saw that they'd already done up a number of sketches of the terror dog, all sorts of different interpretations of the way it was going to look. And they decided on a given design which, for a number of reasons, mostly practical, I didn't think would make as convincing a puppet or a creature as maybe something that I could come up with. So I started contributing unrequested changes. And it turned out they liked them. At first blush, however, I came up with something like this. In fact, exactly this, which is my first terror dog sketch. It had been come up with by Tom Enriquez and John Bruno and Bernie Wrights and a number of other people who did designs. The final design they decided on, in fact, was one by Tom Enriquez, a very fine artist, who had the two horns and glowing red eyes. So I, kept those because those were really good and they liked them a lot. This was a little closer to what we finally wound up with, but a little more reptilian nevertheless. This is my next sketch for him, I think. And these were done, I think, on my second day of employment here, and done pretty quickly. So they don't change too terribly much. This is obviously what I had in my mind when I was thinking about this creature. He did, as you can see, change in proportion. For a while, there was a lot of talk, for instance, of him having hair on him or bristly spines or whatever. And I wanted to avoid that if possible, because it's difficult to deal with taxidermically and make look good. And also it's difficult to deal with in the area of animation because of rippling and whatever, handling frame to frame. So I countered with sort of iguana-like spines on the back of him, which I decided to leave off at the last minute and did.
Okay, the onion head sequence.
The look of the clouds is figured out by two things, really. One is what the director of the film wants, what Richard has in his mind, because as visual effects coordinator, he's the only one who really knows what the clouds and the temple and the terror dogs say are all going to do together. How that's all going to fit comes out of Richard's mind. But then it's also dictated by what the tank will do. The tank is a very random, abstract event, and I can control it to a certain degree, but that's about it. And through experimentation, I can get new looks and effects. So the look is determined just by conversations between me and Richard.
Okay,